Thank you all for coming tonight to our school board forum. I really appreciate everybody who wants to be engaged in what's going on in our community. For those of you who are here on Monday for our mayoral forum, as I said then, the library truly believes that an engaged and informed community is a strong community. We cannot have, though, an engaged community without you guys, also without candidates. So I really appreciate both the fact that you guys are just willing to run, right? We have some communities where it is a real challenge to find candidates for positions, and that you guys are willing to not just come and meet people, but also be willing to be live streamed on the internet with your answers. So that can be really like nerve-wracking, public speaking alone on there, and now having the internet on top of that. So I want to thank you all for attending and participating in this event. I would like to thank Rebecca at MCLS. She is willing to be our moderator. She's going to be reading our questions tonight for us. We are doing a Q&A forum, so the candidates all received the questions ahead of time so that they could have time to research and prepare the answers with the information that they have available to them on there. So every candidate will have a chance to answer the question as well. Every candidate will have 2 minutes for both their opening and closing statements as well as their answers on there. We do ask, though, that the audience just kind of maintain their silence so that the candidates can be able to answer their questions, and then we can move along. At the end of the event, the candidates are more than welcome to stay afterwards and mingle with all of you guys as you want to, and you guys can come up and meet the candidates. So I thank you guys all again for coming here, and I'm going to let Becky get started, and you guys can have a seat if you'd like, and we'll get going.
Okay, so the opening, each candidate is allowed a 2-minute opening, and we are going to start with David. So if you want to go ahead, and Rebecca, are you going to time?
Yes.
So this is 2 minutes. Okay, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. I would like to thank the library for hosting tonight's debate, my fellow candidates, and of course the residents of the Chilton School District, both here and online. I also want to take this opportunity to thank someone that I don't really get an opportunity to do too often, and that's my lovely wife, Shelby. She's my rock. Reflecting on my first term as a board member, I can't believe 3 years have passed already. The first year is a blur of learning with being on the board, really constituents, while trying to be effective in the role. The next 2 years, you begin to hit your stride, but still realize you have much to learn. If reelected, I will be able to truly concentrate fully on the issues and serve the students and community as they deserve. I enjoy pushing my boundaries in life, and being on the Board of Education has been a true honor.
Okay, thank you. And for this part, the opening, we're going to be going clockwise. So Eugene, you are up next.
Well, for those that don't know, my name is Gene Prentice. I am running, this is my first public office to be running for. I moved to the area about 4 years ago. My father lives about a quarter mile down the road from me. How I ended up here, I'm retired military after 23 years of active duty service. And I now teach motorcycling at 3 different locations, one in Neenah, one down in Fond du Lac, and out at Road America. My wife, she just retired as well. She was a civilian service in the military. And so now we're both retired and looking to support our community in a better way. I want to see children succeed in our community. I'm getting a little tired of seeing the test scores go down a little bit. And I want to see those test scores go up. And I want to see the students be able to excel through STEM would be one of the things, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And communication between the school and the parents. And I think the parents should be having more say than what they have been having. And that is why I'm running for the school. Thank you.
right, and Austin, you will be our final opening statement.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Austin Kopitsky, and I graduated from Chilton High School 15 years ago, 2011, and I then moved away to Milwaukee for school, and that led me out to Seattle and a little bit of San Diego, some adventures along the West Coast, working for a few companies, mostly in aerospace. I got my college degree in supply chain. I also studied physics and engineering along the way, and my passion is education and literature and learning and creative empowerment, using our imagination to solve problems and just interact with everybody in the world, each other, and ourselves. And that led me to, well, the school board is looking for candidates. There's a couple open positions, and I find myself back home, my hometown, after moving back to Chilton after being away for a while. And I thought it was a good opportunity to bring my expertise in education, one, being a student for basically 20 years of my life, then taking that through some leadership roles in my supply chain and business experiences from Boeing and a couple other companies. Then correlating that and translating that to what can we do here in a public school system to help prepare students and our families for the world. Even though we're Chilton, it's small, we still make a difference here. And that's why that question is still relevant. And that's why I am applying to be a candidate.
Okay, thank you. So for the next 15 questions, we will be going from left to right. The first question will be going to Jean first, and then we'll go Jean, David, Austin for that first question. And that question, and we'll have 3 minutes for each. Okay, I'm sorry, 2 minutes, 2 minutes per candidate. Okay, first question is a multi-part question. Why are you running for the Board of Education? And if elected, what will be your priorities?
So to help decide how and where funds should be spent to improve academic excellence for our students. The taxes keep going up, but we want to see those scores go up with those taxes as well. So making sure that the tax money is being spent in a proper way that increases the test scores of the students. Balance with excellence of our students, balance with sports and extracurricular activities, putting parents' need to know at the forefront and keeping unwanted things out of the classroom.
Okay, David, did you need to hear a repeat of the question?
So my main reason to serve on the board is to give back to the community I was born and raised in. And having successfully run a small business here for 30 years, it was time to do just that. Ever since I was elected to my first term, people have come up to me repeatedly and asked how I was doing, whether I still enjoyed being on the board, and my answer has always been and will continue to be, it's the most important thing I do. I ran initially on a premise that I wanted to improve the tech ed area and our academic performance. And that remains my focus going forward. Some people put a lot of energy and focus on our sports, which is fine. And sports certainly have a lot to teach our children, but it's academics that will carry them through a successful life that is full of opportunity, high self-worth, and a happy and fulfilling life. I realize while serving the people of this district, the changes I will help achieve are only the beginning. And at some point down the road, others will take up the cause and even pass it on to the next board members and so on. The job will never be done. We are merely custodians and need to keep it moving in the right direction. I truly, truly think that this is one of the most important things that I do. And I hope that people can come up to me, feel like they can come up to me and talk to me at any time about what they're seeing going on in our board and in our schools so that we can hopefully improve.
Austin, would you like to hear the question again?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, why are you running for the Board of Education? And if you are elected, what will be your priorities?
Thank you. I kind of said why I was running in my opening statement, but I'll reiterate that. I believe everybody is important and valued, and the first chance we have to figure out who we are in life is in school, is as a child and as we grow up. How do we interact with our fellow school members? How do we interact with our families? How do we translate these social skills into real life and the world? I've spent a lot of time in many different environments, and most of my career in supply chain has been in contract negotiation, and that's why I bring that into this statement, because contract negotiation is essentially conflict resolution, and that's an extreme side of the spectrum of how does this relate to the school board. But every single day when the students are in school and when we're in life, there's some kind of conflict that comes up, and I have a decent amount of skill in how to navigate those boundaries and how to establish values and communicate in an effective way so that we can hold true to ourselves, but also uphold the respect that we need to have for each other and our communities. That being said, for the school board, I believe a lot of those values align with the Board of Education as well. And being on the school board would be a very good way to help instill some of those soft skills or support some of those soft skills while freeing up the staff members and the education system to perfect the teaching and the education of the students so that they can feel comfortable in themselves, so that they don't have to stress out about the emotional or the mental stress that they're going through as they grow up, whereas we have changes in our lives. They can focus on education and excel in their lessons.
Okay, thank you. Okay, question number 2, we'll start with Dave and then go around this way. The question is, what particular experiences or skills have prepared you to serve as a board member? Second part of the question is, do you have an educational background or expertise?
I've owned a small business here my entire adult life. And I think that gives me a foundation in financial management and human relations. More recently, I've assumed the treasurer's position at the town of Chilton. And that has allowed me to enhance my understanding of governmental finance. But on the education side, I've enjoyed teaching weekend classes on aircraft construction for the Experimental Aircraft Association over in Oshkosh. I'm also mentoring 2 college teams entered in the Wisconsin Space Grant Consortium. It's a competition sponsored by NASA for colleges in the state of Wisconsin. Both of these educational opportunities, along with my work experience, are especially useful in understanding the unique issues of tech ed, development, and instruction, which is one of my major interests. And finally, my 3 years of service on the school board has allowed me to continue to improve my understanding of what all these educational aspects are as they interact with each other.
Thank you. Austin, you're next.
Some of my background or what calls me for the school board candidate is I've spent a lot of time in education. I've been through college, I've been through the undergrad and the graduate program. I've done some certificate programs on the side, so I've done the online and the in-person learning as well. And I know those challenges and opportunities are definitely coming in and have been implemented here at Chilton. Work in process, perhaps, as a caveat. And so I have some skill and background in what kind of systems, maybe not the actual specific system we're going to use, but how do you get a system digital to work in a classroom and stuff like that. So a little bit of skill there. And from a leadership standpoint, I'm a natural leader. I think a lot of people can say that, but I do also live it. I'm not afraid to step up to the plate. I'm polite when I voice my opinion, although not everybody would say that I'm polite. Sometimes it's I'm pretty blunt, and sometimes people get offended. I get offended sometimes too, but that's where the conflict resolution comes into play, where we can have our values, we can have our statements, and we can talk and work through them together. So I have a lot of skills on the soft side, which I think go well for a board position as opposed to a staff member or a specific teacher in the education system. Just to highlight my education, since that was one of the specific questions, I graduated from Chilton High School in 2011. I got my undergrad from Marquette University in supply chain, also studied physics and engineering. And I got my master's degree in supply chain from Michigan State. I've got a project management cert, and I'm also a yoga instructor.
Okay, thank you. Jean, you're last. Did you want to hear the question repeated?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So as far as board stuff goes, I have been on numerous boards, but my experience is a little different after being in the military for 23 years. So one of my last positions was running a motorcycle safety program for 3 different military installations. We implemented different things to save lives by increasing the education in motorcycling and making people come back and take more courses. We cut the death rate for those 3 military installations by 50%. Other things I've done on boards is one of the other jobs I held was being in charge of an internal medicine clinic in Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, where I had to deal with other hospital offices and so on, whether it be on budgets, whether it be on personnel, whether it be on staff, whether it be patient issues, all those kind of things, diverse things have come up before. And now, actually, I teach another course that I helped design at Road America that's a more advanced motorcycle course that we actually do on the Briggs and Stratton track, if anybody's familiar with that. And that has been going better and better for the last 3 years I've been here as well. The other thing I did was I was a drill sergeant for 2 years. So every 16 weeks, we got 60 new students in that we had to make sure met the qualifications for the job, which was being a medical assistant, and also to meet their physical fitness needs. At that same time as well, we were transitioning to a new PT program, and it worked out very well.
All right, third question, we'll be starting with Austin. The question is, what experience do you have with complicated budgets, and what will your process be to determine whether it is a good budget for the system?
Thank you for the question. I chuckle when I get that question because complicated budget, to me, budgets are very straightforward. It's cash in, cash out. And yes, I know it's a little more, there's a little more complexity there, but that's really what a budget is. Do I have enough money to do what I want to do? And if I don't, where am I going to get my money from? Do I want to be spending my money this way? Where the complexity comes in is where do I get my money from and how am I spending my money? So when I think about budgets, I think about values. Is where I'm spending my money what I value? Is what I'm spending my money on actually supporting the value that I want to be from this system? And when I say I mean the Board of Education, or the school system, or whoever the budget is for. So that is long-winded to say, and I could talk way more about that because I was in financial planning for some of my roles at Boeing and stuff like that. And because I'm in supply chain negotiating contracts, we have to understand budget, we have to understand cash flow and stuff like that. What does it look like to balance a budget? That's a little bit more difficult, and that's a conversation that the stakeholders should be having as a group. And I'm more than happy to be able to support those if I have the opportunity to be elected for the board. And like I said before, those, how do you decide where the money should be spent is based on values. So we need to have good value alignment. And if there's not value alignment, there at least has to be mutual understanding and agreement to work together and collaborate for because we're all in the education system together.
Jean,
All right, so as far as complicated budgets go, with the internal medicine clinic especially, that was a kind of a heavy duty. We had 8 doctors, 4 were civilian, 4 were military. We had 12 nurses, 4 front desk staff, and 6 soldiers. Controlling a budget for staff, medical, and office supplies, putting in special requests for additional and updated equipment as things progressed, and constantly changing inventories. And of course, if some doctors wanted this equipment or that equipment to do different tests, especially with internal medicine being such a diverse area, it was challenging. Overall, we had a budget of about $4.4 million a year with the internal medicine clinic that we were running. I hope to be a source of good taxpayer dollars spent. I want it to be spent in a good manner that improves the actual benefit for the child at the end of the day.
okay. Rebecca has it reset. Dave, you're next.
My business experience has certainly prepared me for analyzing budgets and aligning revenue and expenditures. My position as treasurer has expanded that education to include governmental agencies. And having been through 3 cycles of school budgets has helped me understand the unique aspects of them. School budgets are much more complex than most people know and are frankly a continuing education item even for those involved today. They can be a moving target as well due to the changes mandated by both the federal Department of Education and Wisconsin DPI. Getting our budgets in line and allocating to the different areas that we need to allocate to is always a challenge. And it is year to year changes drastically, sometimes in some areas. But I think we've been doing a pretty good job of allocating the money in the different areas that we need to when necessary.
Thank you. Okay, question number 4. We'll start with Jean and then go along that way. The question is, school choice is largely talked about issue. What is your view on school choice vouchers? And what should the district do to help attract or keep students while vouchers are available to families?
Well, at the end of the day, I think the parents should have the choice where their child goes and what they do with it. If students are excelling, they should have that ability. Spending time and money on catching students up that are not fluent in English or placed in a grade due to age instead of ability, I think can be an issue as well. By having somebody not be able to speak English in a classroom, how much extra time is being used on that student? And I think that's where parents in the community are having issues, and that's why you're seeing less students show up to school and are actually choosing different paths for their education. And hopefully we can get that changed around a little bit.
Dave?
Believing in a free market system, I actually support school vouchers. Parents should have the ability to choose what they believe is best for their children. Having said that, the best way to have parents choose Chilton School District to educate them is to elevate the quality of the education we provide, increasing the academic standards we teach to, and hold the students accountable to them. Our recent change from a SBG system to one in which we still teach the standards, but grade to a more traditional ABC format supports that approach. Academics are and should always remain our #1 priority. Opportunities in STEAM will allow students to explore and learn what careers are available to them in those areas. And of course, sports teaches teamwork, discipline, and the importance of physical conditioning. Offering high quality in all these areas will allow us to attract and retain students.
Austin, do you want to hear any part of the question?
I'm good.
Okay.
Gene, I just want to let you have a few seconds of my time because I won't need the full 2 minutes here, but it was not 100% clear to me, but do you want people who can't speak English, who aren't fluent in English in our schools, right? You want them to be supported.
We do want them to be supported, but the problem is, at what cost does it cost the other students in the classroom?
Got it.
So you're limiting the time that you're educating the rest of the class for one or two people.
Got it.
So that's where I'm kind of coming from.
Yes, it's important to have students who can speak any language to be in any school and feel involved. And it is the responsibility of the school to make sure they are meeting the needs of the students. For school choice vouchers, kind of like what David said, I'm much in the free market category. I think it's great, even though it's public dollars going to a private institution, that's cool. I think the public school needs to step up the game if they're losing students to private education. Look at the private education, what are they doing that the students value? Why can't that be done in the public schools? Sometimes people just want to go to private school because it's a private school. Sometimes they want maybe it's a teacher class ratio, I don't know what it is. But the free market is the free market, and I don't see a problem with spending tax dollars on supporting education in the way the family feels is the best way to support education. As it goes to how would I support Chilton Public School or any public school who's having problems with vouchers, cannibalizing students to go to other places, increase the value of the public school, meet the needs of the students, and compete in the free market.
Thank you. Okay, question number 5, we'll start with Dave. And the question is, what are the top needs that the school district has to address?
I believe we need to expand and improve our tech ed areas, which anyone who knows me knows that that's not a big surprise to me. We are currently evaluating our science curriculum and lab areas to determine if improvements are required. Development of a makerspace lab would help foster excitement in manufacturing and engineering. Unfortunately, these are some of the most expensive curriculum areas to develop, and in order to keep these within a reasonable budget, will require an investment by area businesses as well as the district. These businesses will benefit from students developing an interest in these areas and skills and necessary to become valuable employees. I really think that going forward, as part of the budget, we're going to have to try to encourage our local businesses to help participate in some of these areas that we need to develop. And as a good tech area is going to be one of the most expensive things that we can put into the school. And we are going to have to attract some outside money to do that.
Thank you. Austin, you are next.
Well, I'm just coming back to Chilton. I moved back in 2023, and I'm coming up to speed on what are the issues in our public school system. That being said, I'm a candidate for a board member as a chair. I'm happy to listen. I would love to listen. I've even talked to some of the teachers. I walked around schools a few times to try and understand what's going on. And that's how I approach this situation. What are the issues? I don't know exactly what the issues are with the public school system. I think Chilton does a wonderful job with education. Yes, we can all do better on tests. Yes, we can all do better at sports. We can always do better. But are we actually doing bad? I don't think so. I think we're doing a pretty good job. So I'm happy to understand what are the values and the issues that the board has right now, that the school system has right now. As a chair member, as a member of the board, I would add my value as a leader, conflict resolution, love of literature, love of education, balancing values, balancing budgets. That's how I can help us solve our issues.
Thank you. Jean, take it away.
Well, I haven't been involved with the schools too much here, but budget, student competence to lead to being a productive member of our community. What I mean by that is, like Dave said, having maybe some outside resources come in from these local communities. Maybe having students even go to these different businesses, learn these different trades or different abilities that we have that are local to Chilton, as far as farming, as far as agriculture, all that kind of stuff that comes into play as well. So I would agree with that as well.
All right, question number 6, we start with Austin, and the question is, how will you approach a referendum regarding the balancing of the budget for the school district?
Love the budget questions. Where are we getting our money from and how are we spending our money? What are our values? Does the money we spend support our values? I don't know what the referendum is. I hope and assume for the purpose of this question, the referendum is let's increase the value of our education system. And I think with those few statements of a very logical mind, you can probably start to see that. I believe any problem can be solved. It is complicated because there's people involved, but the budget isn't the problem. If there's a problem, it's not the budget. It's either there's conflicting values or there's a lack of money, so we need to do better funding, or the expense that we're trying to implement might not be the best solution. Sometimes things don't go the right way because they're just not meant to be. And there's something to be said for moving on from something that isn't working right and pivoting and changing a different approach as well. So when there's a referendum proposed, or if there is one, how would I handle it? That's how I would handle it. Just look at the process and communicate, because nobody does this in a vacuum, and make sure the money adds up, because it is complicated. There's a lot of tax implications, and we want to set that aside so that we can make sure there's a smooth flow for how we implement whatever system or whatever idea or whatever program we're trying to do for the education system. That's how I handle that.
Okay, Jean, you're next.
So as far as balancing the budget, I don't know the budget as well yet, but I will work with other board members to come to a budget that focuses on student results over extra staff or unnecessary or non-productive actions or curriculums that would work against the parents or good order and discipline. And I have known through the grapevine that that's happened in the past, and I think we need to get our focus back where it needs to be, and that's educating children.
Okay, Dave?
My preference is to keep analyzing our current budget and ensure we are effectively utilizing our resources efficiently. I am hopeful that working with the new superintendent, we can continue to improve what we offer without breaking the bank. Having said that, if a referendum is deemed necessary and we can provide a good argument and justification for it to the district residents, I'm confident that they will support it like they have supported the school repeatedly up to date.
All right, we're on to question number 7. We're starting with Jean. It's a multi-part question. What issues do you believe your district needs to address in its academic program and offerings? Second part, what changes would you recommend?
Well, some of this we already said from before, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And the big thing is the competence of our students, to let them succeed, not just on the test, but in real life. To become free thinkers, but with the guidance of good parents and good teachers.
Okay, Dave?
I am proud to say that during my first term while serving on the education committee, we have implemented numerous curriculum changes that are bringing great results. Bridges has improved our math program at the elementary and middle school levels, and there is no reason to believe those improvements will not continue. More recently, HMH has been implemented district-wide as a reading and literacy program. Internal evaluations indicate that those skills are improving as well. Reading is a core skill that allows students to learn any other subject that they care about. A new personal communication device policy started this year is helping our students focus more on learning during school hours and less on social media. Going forward, our science and math areas at the high school level are due for review, and of course, my pet project to increase and improve our offerings in tech ed and establish a makerspace.
Austin.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure, yeah, there's two parts, and they are, what issues do you believe your district needs to address in its academic program and offerings, and what changes would you recommend?
I think this is an important one, not because it talks about issues, we kind of addressed that on the last statement, but because it brings up how do you balance education as a functioning human being, finding purpose and fulfillment, finding your voice, finding your place in life and in society with standardized education. And there's got to be a balance there. Standardized education can't do everything for you, but it is very important. So let's get the standardized education streamlined. Let's get it efficient. Let's get it good enough to pass the policies and make sure our students and our community is smart, intelligent. They can do the math, they can do the engineering, they can write the alphabet, they can write a paragraph, maybe a couple poems. But there's a lot more to education than just standardized testing. So how do we bring in more of the development on that side? That is where that's where I would focus a little bit more effort. I don't think you can put everything you want into standardized education. You're going to get minimal results, and you are going to always have problems. You can invest into the soft side, make your standardized education good enough. Then you can have a flowing community. Everybody is supported because you're helping people be integrated and interact with each other. And you're not twiddling your thumbs over software updates and unsent emails that don't, kind of disrupt the flow of day-to-day life.
Okay. Question number 8 is starting with Dave, and the question is, what are the biggest literacy and math challenges students face, and how will you address them?
We actually have made huge advancements in these areas during my first term. Bridges, which I've already mentioned, curriculum has improved the test scores in elementary and middle schools. HMH is addressing literacy district-wide, and initial evaluations are very encouraging. A huge part of the issue in these areas is the moving target mandated by DPI. Curriculum requirements and testing standards are changed, sometimes yearly. This making year-to-year comparisons of how our students are progressing difficult at best. We need to strive for standards that far exceed the mandated requirements when possible, and try to get DPI to standardize their testing so that we can do realistic comparisons year to year to year. Who we have in our DPI in Madison running it is an important aspect of what's going on in our schools. And I would encourage residents to pay more attention to what is going on there, and maybe a little more attention to who we're electing to run that area.
Okay, Austin, you're up next for that question.
I touched on the standardized education before. I don't think anything needs to be repeated. But how do we address literature and math problems? In my experience, I know I'm younger and haven't been on the board or a teacher at Chilton, but I've talked to a lot of people. I've interacted with a lot of people, from the CEOs of literally billion-dollar companies to homeless people on the street. And at the end of the day, we're all human. And whether or not you pass a standardized test doesn't determine if you're going to be able to pass it tomorrow. What determines if you're able to retain knowledge, and that's why I bring that up. I'm not knocking standardized. I'm fully in support of standardized testing. It's very good for our education system. But the question here is, how do you actually get knowledge in a student, in a person? It's through experience. I would advocate for having more experiential learning so that when our students are presented with problems, when our families are presented with problems, aka standardized tests or tests or whatever you want to say, They have the experience, they have the muscle memory, they have the empowerment as an individual on their own to address this problem. If you use that formula, empower the individual to address a problem, they can handle any problem, and the standardized testing becomes simple compared to emotional trauma and family conflict, which everybody also experiences.
Okay, Eugene, you're last. Do you want to hear any part of that question again?
No, so one of the biggest literacy and math challenges students face, the problem, like Dave was saying, is that the standards keep fluctuating. So how do you have a standard if the standard goes this way or that way? And so that becomes an issue to be able to figure out, are we doing the right thing or are we doing the wrong thing? But letting students go to the next grade level based on anything other than competency is not a good thing, in my opinion. Changing tests to accommodate unprepared students is not the right answer. If you go to some lower ranking states with their education scores, they're actually making changes. So they are making standard tests, and if that student doesn't pass, they don't go on to the next grade. Lowering standards is not the right answer. Keeping the standards steady and understanding where your student is not only just beneficial for that student, but the parents, the family, and the school. So we need to keep those standards steady so we know what we're getting.
All right, Dave, Austin, you're first for this question. And the question is, how do you see AI being used in the schools?
Artificial intelligence. Woo! So yeah, it's really cool when it's for art, and it's really cool, sort of, to use it as a friend occasionally. But I mean, there's pros and cons. That's really what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to provide a little levity here. The answer for the school system, though, is we don't need to expose students to artificial intelligence when they're 10 years old. We don't need to expose students to artificial intelligence when they're 11 years old. There's a lot of implications behind what goes into AI outside of the data centers and the environmental impact, all the way to brain science and neurology and emotional development, hormone development. And AI, especially digital screens, complicates that. There's a lot of psychology that goes into it. I'm not going to waste my time going into here, but I think it's Pavlov or somebody like that. They did a study with the human touch, how touch is so important. When you have artificial intelligence providing more validation to a person than an actual human doing, you threaten to deconstruct that person's ability to relate to other people and feel safe around other people. So my view in a nutshell on artificial intelligence is it's not just a flip of a switch. Yes, it's really cool. It does a really good job in standardized settings. It does a really good job with knowledge and education. But we have to understand, what are we exposing our community to when we bring it in? And is the community ready for being exposed to it? What is that appropriate point? Maybe high school, certainly not middle school or elementary school or younger.
Thank you,
And,
Jean.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think you ran out of time. I think I cut you off just at the point.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, Jean, you're next.
So for AI, I think it needs to be done very carefully. Students react better to actual teachers and feedback from their peers. So having that interaction between people really cannot be replaced with a computer. If you ever look down the road 20 years ago, nobody was looking down at their phones. Now, you go wherever you go, literally everybody's like this. And I don't think that is good for our society. So by having AI take a leading role, might save some money, but will destroy social skills and critical thinking within the students themselves. So again, very carefully.
Dave?
So society is still figuring out the benefits and pitfalls of AI. Staff administration usage should be done with care and restraint. Student use must be monitored closely and not be allowed to replace learning how to do tasks manually or the old-fashioned way, if you will. Learning how to ethically use AI is something we are all trying to get a grip on and this rapidly changing environment. This is something that it's going to be changing pretty much going forward here for a number of years, I think, until we wrap our head around how to actually utilize AI appropriately.
Thank you. We are on to question number 10. We're starting with Jean. The question is, what are your thoughts on your school district's programs for special education students, English language learners, and gifted students?
Well, accommodate the best you can without letting the majority of the students behind. So I understand that we have people that don't speak English in our community and so on. But at the same time, do you want the other students to fall behind because of that student not being able to keep up with the language? The language is a pretty important thing. It's our way to communicate. So if somebody is hurting in that area, I think you might have to find another location for them so the other students can still excel the way they need to. Parents would be a good thing to bring in on these conversations, especially when it comes to the gifted programs, to figure out what is needed and for these smaller groups of students. Smaller groups like these might take more time to figure out what works best based on special needs. I haven't seen it, I haven't dealt with it yet, so I don't want to put a definitive answer on that yet.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
The Chilton School District is unique in not just the quality of our English learning and special education provided, but in the number of students we do provide it to. Our current program serves many neighboring districts as well as our own, and this provides challenges as well as opportunities. These programs can affect the mainstream student population adversely if not implemented properly, and I look forward to working with our new superintendent to review our current program and ensure we are providing all of our students the best possible environment to reach their full potential.
Okay. Austin?
I believe the education system should support every student that comes to the system for education, no matter what. That means everybody, whatever category that classifies you in, whether you are mute or deaf, are on the spectrum, or have a genetic disorder or hormonal disorder or mutation, whether you're chronically injured, whatever condition or life circumstance you have right now, our school system ought to accept you and do what they can to support you. And I realize that puts a burden on the school, but that's where we have budgets. That's where we have people like us who are candidates and members of the board to solve those problems. That's what we live for. That's our job. So I certainly hope to see the education for the English learning, non-English learning, special education, gifted students continue to improve here. And I will certainly do everything in my power to see that happen. The last thing I was going to say, going back to that AI question, was I see AI as a really good way to improve critical thinking skills, so long as the student has already developed an opinion or a form of thought. If you are outsourcing your thinking to the artificial intelligence, that's a problem. But AI is really good for bouncing ideas off. AI is really good to interact with, really good for contract negotiation, really good for drafting up those emails. It has really good insights on how to communicate. So if you go to AI and you have a opinion already formed and you just want to shoot with AI, then I think that's where it could come into play. And that's why I said maybe high school for that question.
Okay. Question number 11, starting with Dave, is how would you ensure that all students, including LGBTQ plus students and students from diverse backgrounds, feel safe, respected, and supported in our schools?
Current board and administration have worked very hard to establish an environment free from bullying and harassment. As chair of our policy committee, I can assure you we have multiple policies in place to prevent and deal with inappropriate behavior and harassment by students or staff. We cannot put special policies in place that favor a particular group or organization. as that in itself would be discrimination. The district has had no issues to date in this area that I'm aware of, and I don't anticipate any in the future.
And Austin, you're up next.
To answer this question, I'd like everybody to take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale out through your nose. Open your eyes and look into the eyes of the person sitting next to you. And now do it again. Look to your left or your right. We're all human. And I know that's a little extra for being a board applicant for the Board of Education here, but this question's a little personal to me because, and I'm not sharing this story with anybody, it's not really a story. When I moved to the West Coast, I lived in a couple cities, I was new, I didn't know anybody out there. I didn't even know who anybody was. So naturally you meet people and you make friends. And it turns out the first friend in every single city I moved to, not because I was in the corporate world and interacting with my coworkers and whatnot, just happened to be the first friend I ever made were homosexual people. And I am not homosexual myself, but those just happen to be my first friends that I've ever made. Not the first people I met, the first friends I made, because they know how to be inclusive. And I think that is a very good lesson that we can learn. We should be accepting of everybody. We are all human. And this question is, and this, not even this question, this purpose, this mission, this, whatever you want to call it, it needs to go away. This is 2026. There's no reason we should even be thinking about not including people who are different than us, whether you're straight or not straight, black, white, colored, whatever. We're all humans. Take a breath and be.
Okay, and Jean, you're last to answer that question.
Sure. So the big thing on this one is to treat everyone as equal. You're not placed in a special category because of your beliefs, not in an education system. Whether or not it goes to religion, race, or sexual preference, school is not a place for choosing sides. It's a place for learning and social construct to build off of. So I don't think that the LGBT plus community should be put at any higher or lower regard than anybody else. But I don't think it should be celebrated in schools either. I think that the final decision should be left up to the parents, not the teachers, not the librarians, not those other things that have been affecting their schools in the past.
Okay, you're up again on
Sure.
the next question, which is number 13. How do you think the district should allocate funding between athletic, academic, for instance, debate and robotics, and the arts-based extracurricular programs?
Okay. Did we miss?
Did I miss a
I
question?
think you did. Sorry about that.
What
11.
role-
Or 12.
I think number 12.
12.
Oh, they looked very similar.
Yes, they did.
My
They did.
apologies.
They did.
My apologies to everyone. Okay, let's go. Okay, so then we have to back up and say that actually, Austin, you start with this question.
Okay.
What role do you think diverse perspectives, including race, culture, and LGBTQ+ identities, should play in school curriculum and library collections? My apologies. I just saw some similar wording and wasn't wearing my reading glasses.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'm glad we went back to this question. I love diversity. It belongs everywhere. The more diversity we have, the better we are as people and as humans. It gives us a chance to see different perspectives. It gives us a chance to bounce our ideas off of people who have different experiences. And like I said before, experiences are what matters when we're learning. You can shove knowledge in a person's face all you want. But if they don't have an experience with what you're shoving in their face, all they're gonna feel is stuff being shoved in their face, and they're not gonna learn anything. How does that relate to diversity? It helps us understand different perspectives. And as we become more integrated with internet, with communication, with society, we're going to encounter people who look different than us, who think different than us, who talk and speak different than us. We might even encounter people who don't speak the same language as us. We need to know how to interact with those people. They're part of the world, just like we are. And they and us, we all belong together.
Okay, Jean, now you're up on that question.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So, what role do you think diverse perspectives, including race, culture, and LGBTQ identity should play in school curriculum and library collections? Well, being in the military, we always had diverse perspectives, especially we have different backgrounds. People came from all over the United States to serve their country. But we didn't really have to deal too much with the LGBTQ thing as much. In schools, I would leave these decisions up to the parents, not the teachers or the librarians. Some parents would find this LGBTQ stuff not applicable to school. I don't think it actually teaches a skill in my personal perspective. I don't see it have any job or educational benefit until maybe you get to college or something like that. My personal belief is leave the LGBTQ stuff out of the schools.
Dave?
Libraries play a different role today than they did when most of us were growing up, especially when you get into the high school level. Students today use online resources for most of their research, entertainment, and of course their social network. The libraries exist to support our academic curriculums primarily and should remain their primary focus. Our curriculum should treat these groups like any other, using facts and history to give our students an accurate understanding of them.
Okay, thank you. Now we are actually moving on to question number 13, and we will start with Jean, but I will repeat it again.
Sure.
How do you think the district should allocate funding between athletic, academic, and arts-based extracurricular programs?
Well, to be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm sure though that there's already a balance that has been debated. So I don't want to have it or give an opinion until I have a better idea of where the funds are going. Getting a past, present, and future assessment is needed for me to actually answer that question in a better manner.
Dave?
I find it interesting that the question listed athletics before academics. In my mind, academics will always trump athletics. I believe our current allocation represents a reasonable approach to allocating funds in the appropriate area. Some funding is mandated by state guidelines. Other areas the district is given more latitude. The district reviews how funding is distributed on a yearly basis and can make adjustments as priorities or requirements dictate.
Austin?
For allocation of funds between academics, athletics, and arts, why are we trying to make a trade-off here? I think all can be balanced equally. There's a lot of different roles people play in the world, from athletics, academics, and arts. That's kind of my answer. Why would we choose to stuff all our money into one category when we can support all of them? If the budget really is getting in the way of what are we able to do, then we go back to our values. What do we want our arts people to be able to do? And we look at what is the requirement to be a successful student of the arts in our community and society. Fill that gap. What about academia? Where are we going in academia? And what gap do we have to fill? Fill that gap. Where are we going in athletics? And fill that gap. Then if you want to make a trade-off, you take that gap and you say, Is my gap excessive of where my people are going, where our students are going? And if it's excessive, we've got extra money that we can put somewhere else, especially if there's a deficit in one of those other categories. So long story short, what I'm saying is look at where the students are going in arts, athletics, and academics. Look at where we're spending our money. Look at the goals and the priorities that set us up to spend our money there and say, are we over preparing in one of these areas? If we are, we have extra money. Are we under preparing in one of these areas? If we are, we have to put our extra money in that category, get everybody up to the same baseline. That's how we support all things equally.
Okay, we are moving on to question number 14. We're starting with Dave. And the question is, please describe your past experience with conflict resolution and consensus building.
By its very nature, owning a business requires an ability to resolve conflicts with employees, customers, and vendors. Consensus building is really a modified version of the same skills. Finding a common ground and negotiating back and forth until an agreement is reached. Treating each other with respect goes a long way towards reaching an equitable conclusion. Life is full of conflict resolution, whether it's with your wife, oh, that never happens.
She's your rock.
Or in my case, customers or vendors or so on. And also being on the school board, be it with staff or other board members, you have to just have a reasonable conversation and come to an agreement.
Thank you, Austin. You're up next on that question.
Great question, very relevant. And it's kind of like what David said, there's conflict everywhere. For me personally, I got to negotiate multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar, $1,000 contracts. It's all the same at the end of the day. Sign on the dotted line, make sure you read the terms. Do you follow through or do you not follow through? Let's talk about it.
Okay, Jean, you're up.
Being in the Army for 23 years with many different environments, job titles to include being a drill sergeant for 60 soldiers that changed out every 16 weeks. We never had any conflicts there. So you have different soldiers with different needs, especially after they just got out of basic training. Now they're into their more advanced training. So now they're not only having to keep up with their PT, but they're having to keep up with their education. They're having to pass tests every time. If not, they get kicked back or they have to pick out a new MOS. So there's a lot of different conflicts, whether it be with the instructors or with the students' learning ability. And then it also came into play as far as conflict resolutions, went quite a ways also in the hospital with running the internal medicine clinic. So I had probably 75% of my employees at that time were civilians, but then I had 25% that were soldiers, to include officers. So in the military, people are always changing out, changing in. So my colonel would be there for 2 years, and then I get a new colonel. Now I have to just fire on everything that is happening in the clinic. So it's an ongoing battle, but when you're having those conflicts and stuff, it makes things more interesting.
Okay, great. Okay, we have our last question before the closing statements. Question number 15, and we are starting with Austin. The question is, in your view, what has the district done well over the last 5 years? And what has the district done poorly that you would change?
I think, now this is just my perspective, Austin here. I think Chilton does a really good job supporting the mentally disabled, on spectrum students. And I think Chilton does a pretty good job offering some accelerated programs for high schoolers. I think there could be some better offerings in the accelerated program perspective. I think we could do more to support the staff and the facilities for having more support for the special education needs as well. That's just my perspective. That's what I've seen as Austin. I know there's a lot more that I haven't seen. I don't know everything, especially because I'm not on the board. I'm not a teacher in the school. I'm happy to learn, but it all goes back to values for me. We're all humans, education is important. Let's have a lot of diversity that is representative of who's living here and who we are going to interact with in the world. And let's make sure our education system supports that.
Okay, Jean, you're up.
So Bridges obviously has been a great program for the middle school and grade school levels. But I think that some of the things that hurt us about 5 years ago, maybe even a little sooner, was getting grant money to implement different things into the school. And I think that hurt us for a while, but I think we're back on the right track. And I don't know all the issues that have come up, but I know that there's been massive improvements over the last 3 years. And I want to continue that in the Chilton School District.
We have improved the curriculum in math and reading. Our tech ed area, however, has been essentially stagnant in regards to improving the facilities and offerings and needs to be addressed. Communication between the administration and the district could use improvement. I look forward to working with our new superintendent, whoever it may be, to bring a fresh perspective and working with the board and community to reach our common goals.
Okay, thank you. So that is the end of the question answer portion. We are moving into closing statements. These will be 2 minutes as well, and we are going to reverse the order that we started in. So Austin, you are the first closing statement.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. It's been a little over an hour and you've all been very polite and considerate with our time and attentive. So that's very much appreciated. It means a lot. And it's also helpful. It shows you care and it gives us the opportunity to provide the value that we think we can bring to the table. I have said a lot about values. Just to reemphasize my values as a board member, my skills are in conflict resolution. I'm more on the soft side. I'm a good leader. I have business knowledge. I run a yoga studio. I know how to interact with people. I know how to deal with conflict. I know how to manage a budget. I voice my opinion. I think that's obvious. I'm respectful. I'm open-minded. Not to say I am radical, but what I mean by open-minded is I like to hear what you care about, and I like to have an open conversation about what we care about, because we are here to work together on improving the education of the students and the families in our community. And that's what I would bring to the board.
And thank you. Jean, you're always in the middle, so you get to stay in the middle. You're second up.
So I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I want to be a member of this board, not for myself, but to improve the relationship between the teachers and the parents and the students. And I want to increase those scores to increase our students' benefit when they actually leave school. I want them to be able to get good paying jobs, preferably in the local area, to keep things more of a community. And that's what I want to see come out of this. Thank you.
And Dave, last but not least.
We've been truly blessed in the Chilton area. We hear continually from people from other districts who come here and they see our facilities. We have awesome buildings. We have a great campus. We're known for having a good program in pretty much every area, from our staff and sports and our co-curricular areas. It's a testament not just to the board, but really more so to the people of the community who have continually stepped up when it's necessary to help us build this beautiful facility that we have here. Does it need improvement? Of course, they all do. We should never be happy. Even if it was rated the top school in the state of Wisconsin, we should still strive to do better. Hopefully you feel like I've contributed over the last 3 years, and I really would appreciate your vote this coming, a week and a half, I guess now. So thank you very much. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you all for the time that you gave us tonight to answer these questions. As I said earlier, it isn't always easy for a lot of people to be able to do this. So I truly appreciate it. The library appreciates it. I feel that the community appreciates it as well. I want to thank you all for attending because once again, these events are great, but it won't have the impact if people don't come and actually want to get to know the candidates that are running so that they can make informed decisions. I do want to, before I send you all out, remind everybody that the election is on Tuesday, April 7th. So I encourage you all to get out and vote. If you are not submitting an absentee ballot, getting out on that Tuesday. And also the school district did announce that there is going to be a meet the finalist in the superintendent position. And that is going to be on Wednesday, April 8th, starting at 5:30 and should run till 8. And there are 3 candidates that you can meet that are the finalists for superintendent. So I encourage you all to go out and also meet the potential finalists so that you can let those that are making that decision know what you are looking for as well.
Where's
So-
that meeting?
It is meeting at the community room at the high school. On there. So once again, thank you all for attending. If you guys would like to stay, you are more than welcome to stay, and you guys can walk around and talk to each other. Thank you all very much. Thank you.